I'm just praying for him to die, and whether I want him to go to heaven or he's going to hell anyway. So that's not even my decision. You know, I'm just praying that he dies so that other human lives could be saved for the greater good.
Well, let's go over some more of those. And so CNN can have a problem with the Bible, and actually in Canada, in England, in Europe, they are trying to ban hundreds and hundreds of passages similar to the one you just read. We know why they want the hate crime legislation. But this is the Bible, and I know a lot of phony Christians have a big problem with it. That's why they love the New World Order. We're going to play a little bit more of this CNN clip coming up the next segment with Pastor Anderson. But you've got the military under Bush's lies, kills over 1 million Iraqis, admitted. 18 years of sanctions. Nobody wrings their hands about that. Obama poses as this great guy who loves the African people when he's expanding the abortion and forced abortion against them. That's on record. And he also called for killing babies after they're born, if they're accidentally born in partial birth abortion when they're 9 months old. And he's on record. He really called for that when he was a U.S. and state senator as well. But why didn't anybody care about these babies? I mean, I know Obama's a complete puppet. He's not the real King Herod. He's not the real king of the Philistines. I understand in this more sophisticated game that he's just a puppet and they get sympathy off this. But taking a pastor out of context who's reading, I guess, what do you call those prayers, imprecatory, or what's the term for prayers?
A lot of people use the term imprecatory, which comes from the word imprecation, which is to curse someone.
Okay, so what are some of the other things in the Bible that they'd like to burn?
Well, you know, first of all, the part that I actually preached in the sermon that they're all outraged about was actually Psalm 58. And I can read a part of that if you want. This is where my sermon basically came from.
Yes, go ahead.
It says, this is Psalm 58, verse 6. Break their teeth, O God, in their mouth. Break out the great teeth of the young lions, O Lord. Let them melt away as waters which run continually. When he bendeth his bow to shoot his arrows, let them be as cut in pieces. As a snail which melteth, let every one of them pass away. Like the untimely birth of a woman, that they may not see the sun. And in verse 10 it says, the righteous shall rejoice when he seeth the vengeance. He shall wash his feet in the blood of the wicked. So that a man shall say, verily there is a reward for the righteous. Verily he is a God that judgeth in the earth. Now, I didn't write that. And yet I'm taking heat this week, last week, the week before, for those words, for preaching those words and applying them to the person whom they most definitely apply to.
But Pastor, I understand you're preaching the Bible here, and you have a right to do it, and I understand why you're saying what and what you're doing. I'm not, I've defended you when they beat you up for no reason. The TV host acts like you're some type of criminal that deserves it. He then has people on basically calling for your arrest, and we're going to cover that. But just politically, and I understand you and others standing up to him is starting to intimidate the establishment. They realize there's millions of Americans now who are just ready for a fight. And who are sick of mincing words. And so maybe it's the right course you're taking. Just instinctively and politically, Obama is a front man and a puppet. The establishment want him as a shield to take the arrows. And certainly you can't mince your words knowing that they're going to edit them and take them out of context as they did. But I just think that hoping, he dies of brain cancer really plays into the media because they edited down what you said. I mean, what do we do about this? I guess we just let them use this against us. And I mean, do you see my point?
I definitely see your point, but here's the thing. I'm not a politician, so I don't care what happens politically, because the way that I run my life and the way that I pastor my church and the way that I preach has always been the same. And it's preach the word of God, preach the truth, and let the chips fall where they may. That's what any man of God, any preacher should be doing, and not weighing, how are people going to use this? Are people going to like this? Is my church going to grow? Am I going to lose people? To me, that doesn't matter. What matters to me is, did I obey God when he told me as a preacher to preach the word?
No, I see what you're saying, because once you start giving in, We now have gelded preachers saying, take the inoculations, go to the FEMA camps, clergy response team, tyranny's good, let the government take your children. I mean, they're now openly federalized, and just like Hitler or the Soviet Union, once you begin to adulterate it, you become a tool of the establishment. And now most churches, I've been to them, are absolute organs. I mean, you feel the spirit of the world more in church now than you feel it even on the street. I mean, I can't go in most churches because it's just so, the spirit of the world is so strong in them. I mean, do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You're exactly right. And it's exactly what you just said. When you start to trim the message of the Bible, when you start to tone it down, when you start to back down and compromise, there is no end to it. You're going to, once you get in the habit of compromising, you're going to keep compromising and watering it down. And most churches today, Alex, let's face it, are a rock and roll concert. They're a social club. They're a motivational speaker. They are not a real house of God.
Well, it's a place to pick up women. I mean, growing up in Dallas, if you wanted to go pick up women, it was church. I mean, that's the party club. Stay there, Pastor. We'll be right back.